Okay. See, what we are going to talk about today is a just of a part of a poem that was written by Shankaracharya several hundreds of years ago. You know, a lot of Indian people know about this poem, and the poem is very profound if you look at the each stanza. Okay, I'm not going to give the entire poem because it will take days probably to go on with each stanza, but I will just talk about one particular segment which is very relevant to our problem of burnout and how to get resilience inside, especially extreme resilience. So what they were talking about is, first I will tell in Sanskrit, then we'll go on line by line and we talk about the meaning of it and how it is related to our lives. It goes like this. Satsange nissangatvam. Nissangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. Nischalatatve jivan mukti. So if you take each line, satsangatve, that means association with good people. Good people in the sense, what they were talking about is people who are involved in examination and exploring what is truth. What is truth in life? What are the existential truths? How they affect life on earth, especially human life, that too internal life. So they are talking about these kind of people who are in the quest of the truth, and they found the truth and they are trying to convey that to us. So associate with them. That is the recommendation. Okay. Then after association like that, what happens is you will develop a discriminatory attitude about what is real and what is not real, and what is temporary, what is permanent, and thereby you can distinguish what is real and permanent, and then spend your life towards them. Otherwise, you will be in temporary and unreal things that are going to produce a lot of suffering for us. That is the message, right? So associate with good people so that you can have this, what they call viveka, means discrimination. Discrimination of what is real and permanent. Okay, so satsangatve nisangatva. Nisangatva means that you develop this detachment to the temporary and impermanent things and unreal things. After you develop the detachment, what happens is your desire for them will subside. That's why nisangatve nirmohatvam. Moham means desire. Nirmohatvam means desire for these temporary and unreal things. Okay. After you develop that kind of desirelessness towards these unreal and impermanent things, then what happens is nisangatve nirmohatva, nirmohatve nischala tattva. Nischala tattva means because your mind is not in desire and in movement with the desire, your desirelessness produces silence in your mind, basically, right? So then what happens? The silence in the mind is the peace and happiness. So nischala tattve jivan mukti. Jivan mukti means while you are alive, you have a liberation from your own suffering. how your mind, which is the chief producer of the suffering, becomes silent, and that silence results in peace and happiness because there is no movement of the desire. Take, for example, Buddha. He was in the palace with all sorts of luxuries her father provided, and then he was not happy with all those worldly things. A American life, general life, involved in desire and pleasure and materialistic strife and all that, right? So he was unhappy with that whole thing because he went through those pleasures. He had married, he had palace pleasures, he had money, he had all the trappings of the materialistic world. But inside he was unhappy. And then when he saw suffering in the form of disease, death, and old age, he was moved to find out how can we end this suffering. So ultimately, he found the solution to the suffering, which is the nirvana, whereby he transcended his own mind and intellect, whatever. So that transcendence resulted by understanding all that he was craving for earlier were impermanent, but not only that, they were unreal. There is an underlying reality that is beyond your ego, beyond your mind. And that is the silence. That is the consciousness that is in silence. And that is the one is always permanent. This is what Bhagavan Krishna was referring to, that what you are really does not burn, does not die. It always stays. Once you understood that, Arjuna, then all these bodies, all these relationships, all these things you are thinking, they are not permanent. What is permanent is underlying that soul, consciousness, heart, all that. Okay. Once you realize that, you don't mind slaying the bodies that are going in a non-righteous way. That's what he said. So once you realize that, then you also overcome not only the suffering, but also the thought of death, the attachment to the life here, and all that. But doesn't mean that you don't live life with vigor, with vitality, with involvement. Only thing is, in your own mind, you develop a detachment so that you won't suffer when those things are not there, which is eventuality. What we are as young people, that firmness of the body is not there. It's going to go. Or when we are very healthy, we don't have any aches and pains. They will come when we are deceased. And also, once you understand that, the same disease and all those don't have the same hold on your mind like you normally would, right? So you understand the role of desire, the role of our mind in the production of suffering. Let us take this burnout is nothing but that, because we are thinking such in way of life, certain pleasures, certain satisfactions, they are important for us and we are striving for them. And then when something like a virus comes and suddenly kills us, we are thinking we are losing all that valuable to us. And that's why we are so much troubled in our mind. So to overcome that suffering, you have to understand what is real and stay in that. And use the mind, not let be used by the mind. So they are not saying you cannot use the mind. You can use the mind. They are not saying you cannot earn money. You can earn money, but the desire for the money is the one that they are talking about. If you have that, then you will never stop earning money, and then you always be in that. You are not happy to make what is needed and stop there. Your desire for more is the problem. So anyway, in this poem, what they are saying is, first of all, realize what is real, what is not real. Then develop detachment to the non-real. Then out of the detachment, you will have desirelessness. Out of the desirelessness, you will get silence of the mind. Once you have the silence of the mind, then you are free from all the strife and suffering that kind of mind with this movement is producing. So you are going back to the silence again. And once you are stationed in the silence, then you don't have any suffering associated with the movement of thought. Then you can do stuff, but without this movement of thought. What does it mean is, you have a job, you have the skill for it, and you are learning, but while you're learning, you don't develop the pride and ego that I am the one who is doing it. That pride is not there, that is the movement of thought is not there. Then you enjoy that work. You enjoy doing it skillfully. And then the results are there, you won't strive for the result. Doing the work itself is like a worship. Doing the work itself is a result. Then either it is done or not done, you are not really responsible for that. Then what happens is, you are doing your work without the movement of thought, without that noise the mind makes. So you are in silence. That is what it means by do with the hands, but with a silent mind. Once you are in the silent mind, actually you do better because all your attention is on the work. So that's what they mean by do work with your hands, but don't have the agency or ego. Don't expect any fruits from that action because that is determined by the divine. God determines the fruits. Once you have the detachment, you do the life, you live life, you help other people and all that, but you won't have that movement of thought which creates the expectation and the failure and all the problems from it. So do the work with a silent mind. When you have the silent mind, you have so much attention to the job, it has a quality with it that will go. That will go into your results. And the results will be better than suppose you are worried or so if you're confused. That is what is happening to the healthcare workers now, because they go with all this built up that there is a virus, there is an enemy, that we have to protect ourselves, and also we have to protect other people and make them better and all that. But that's not really in your hands if you don't have the right therapies, vaccines not yet available. Whatever is available is an improvement from March, but right now it's not there. So if you go with a strength of mind where the mind knows its place and operates in the daily life in the correct way, it is only when you take the work as yours and you are the agent and you want the fruits, the mind becomes the ego and all the problems. Otherwise, the mind will work without any movement, and it only provides you with knowledge, with ways of doing, skills and all that. But it doesn't identify with the ego, which is really unreal, impermanent, that is in you. So once you identify that, you go there without any fear, which is good for your intake, first of all. You won't any make mistakes because you don't have fear or anxiety or depression. So having the resilience of this kind of mind is the extreme resilience. That can be done only by understanding this. In this poem, there is so much wisdom that can be used to the modern life. Because in modern life, what we did, we basically moved to the things outside, not to the things inside. But the inside is the one which comes out into the outer things. Suppose you are anxious, that anxiety shows in your work. Suppose you are depressed, the depression shows in your work. So having the desirelessness helped them to live in bliss and happiness. I will give an illustration. There was a Swami, he said, if I have my hand to put it under my head, and if I have basic clothing, and if I can sleep on my back on a stone, that's enough for me. Because I am in bliss, I am in happiness. The external things did not matter. But once he wants the comforts for the body, once he wants comforts for the mind, then you are digging your own problem. That is the getting into desire. But whatever that is given, you enjoy it and then you leave it without any attachment, that's okay. But in our mind, we go from desire to desire. All the marketing forces force this on your mind. And so you never turn inside. You are always driven by buying a car, do that, go to a movie, do that, television, all these things are influencing you. So when I turn to the ancient wisdom, this is what I found. To be really happy and blissful, you do not have to go outside of yourself. You have to be within yourself. Turn inward, stop the thought going out, turn that inside and find out who is it that is craving for these desires? Who is it that is really going after things that do not matter to us in the long run anyway? Once you understand that and you say, hey, this is not really me, I am that consciousness behind this. This thought is only my servant. Ego also can be an obedient, nice servant. Everybody can have it, but do not have to be underneath it and do not have to be influenced by it. That's what's happening in a daily basis. You go to the hospital, you see the patients, and then immediately you go working, then all the problems start in the mind, the movement, the anxiety, the nervousness, and all those things come. On the other hand, if you can just see, okay, I am with a patient, but I am protected, and then he's also reasonably made sure that he's not spreading it, then you should be in a situation where you are working with a dangerous thing, you are working with a knife, but if you have enough precautions, you don't cut yourself. The same thing is with here too. Then your own mind stationed in the stability of Nischala Tattva, that means silent mode, is the most resilient thing. So that's why I picked up this particular poem and related to how it can bring extreme resilience in people. You don't have to take any medication. You don't have to be anybody's student, or you don't have to be under the influence of anybody. All you have to do is turn inside, look at what's going on in you. Is there a movement of thought? Then what is that movement of thought? Is that real or not? It comes and goes. So once you have that, then you say, if I'm not the thought, what am I? Then you go behind the thought. The thought is arising from that silent consciousness. So you station yourself in that consciousness and then operate. It's very difficult because people are already under the influence of the thought, and the thought moves so fast they can't even really identify that. So what you have to do first is to turn inside, then slow down the thought, then stop the thought, then stay in that silence. That is the exercise I'm always telling them. It's not enough just to breathe and then calm the thought for now, then it will come back. But if you understand this whole mechanism of you are the consciousness, and out of consciousness, this thought, I thought coming, that I thought is that ego, from the ego, all your activities are flowing, then the ego is going to suffer, okay, and make you suffer. On the other hand, if you are coming from that angle of silence, you do the work, but you won't be suffering from the results of the work. But at the same time, you can do better work. And after that, you are not bonded by it because you are not associating the results with yourself. So they are determined by the life. This is very true. Ramana always said, you have to turn inside and find out who you are. That is the purpose of your human birth. But once you are there, you stay there and watch whatever is happening. Whatever had to be done by you is already determined by the divine, he said, and then it will happen. So all you have to do is try to be not caught up in the movement of thought. Okay, this was told in so many ways in the classics of India. Aditya Hrudaya, you take that. That is when Agastya Muni comes in the middle of the battle between Ram and Ravana. Ram is worried by the Ravana's capacity and skill, and he gets injured like anything. And then he was doubting himself whether he can kill this demon. Then Agastya comes and says, hey, Ram, you are the consciousness. You are not that movement of thought. Once Rama realizes that and goes back to his consciousness, he finds his resilient self. Then he goes into the battle and kills Ravana. However much we talk about it, people, the moment they get up, they go into thought. The moment they see a work, they identify him doing that work, him wanting the results. That's why they get into trouble. But if you are a doctor or a nurse, you are going into the hospital with the idea that you are the awareness or the consciousness, which everybody else also is part of it, then you and others are no different. And with that, you go and work as though you are working for yourself. When you are working for yourself, you want the best body, best mind, and best attitude. So best body comes by exercise, relaxation, and good nutrition, and also not having the mind influence the body with stress hormones. When you don't have the movement of mind, that is the health benefit that body has. Then what is a good mind? The mind actually listens to us. It won't be compulsive, it won't run its way. It will calm down, quiet down, and then act according to what you are intending, really. So you have to be intentional, you have to be present, and you have to use the mind as though it is your servant. Then the last one is the attitude. Do the work with complete attention. Don't pay your attention to the results. Sachin Tendulkar, when he's making all those runs, he never paid attention to the scoreboard. He only paid to the ball that is coming into him and he was hitting. So you have to plan, you have to make steps to the plan, but each step pay complete attention. Then the result will come. Okay. So if you can do like this, you will be extremely resilient. And this wisdom from the ancient classics has to be taken like that. It is not just reading about it and then throwing to the winds, or reading it only at some occasions and then forget about it. If this is read, understood, and made real in our life, it has extreme benefit. That's why I chose for this week this kind of talk on Bhajagovinda. Actually, Moha Mudgara, that means liberation from moha. Moha means desire. That is the title of that poem. Okay, so actually he talks about lots of other things. Each poem takes a pearl of wisdom, but this one particular stanza has so much meaning. Okay, that is what I wanted to talk about. I think 20 minutes is enough for this then I will stop it here for this talk. Okay.